When you are trying to improve yourself as a salesperson or as an entrepreneur, many people use willpower in order to get to their goals, get to the top, make achievements. And other people, they use a more conscious energy in order to maintain a sense of balance, maintain a sense of alignment with their work and their life. So in this video, I want to talk about the two main energies that we can use to make progress, to get to our goals, being willpower on the one hand and alignment, surrender, call it Kundalini on the other hand. I want to share some of my experience in working with these energies in order to make progress, get to my goals in my life and as an entrepreneur. So generally speaking, I like to be in a state of work where I'm using willpower in order to grind things out, because that way I feel like I'm doing the most work and I'm moving the most in terms of my business. And I feel like when I am in that state, when I can work a lot, it's easier to maintain my habits, to have discipline, and to make progress. Now, I also just enjoy this more because I just feel like I'm working more. I feel like I'm being more productive. The danger is though, when you do that for a longer time, let's say you're really grinding 15 hours a day for 6 months or more on an end, obviously the danger is burnout. And I think oftentimes when that happens, sometimes it's because you're going about it too hard and you're wearing yourself out in terms of maybe you need more sleep, maybe you haven't been living healthy, maybe you haven't been eating healthy. But I think the real danger often is that you no longer have a sense of alignment. Because when we think about what is willpower, what is willpower actually? It's about forcing something, right? It's about forcing yourself to do something that you don't naturally feel like you want to do. And I feel like that's good because we learn discipline, but on the other hand, we need to realize that we are actually forcing ourselves into doing something that we don't naturally want to do. And so I think often the danger with willpower is that we kind of start to move out of alignment with what we naturally want, because what we naturally genuinely want is oftentimes something that we don't need to force. It's something that we genuinely want to do. And so in my experience, often when I have long bouts of willpower, I can be really motivated during that period. But oftentimes what happens at the end of it is I start feeling worn out, not just energy, but also the goal that I've been working towards. I feel is it something that I still actually genuinely want? And oftentimes, when I feel like I'm starting to wear out, often that's because I feel like I don't really want it anymore. And it's starting to feel a little bit empty, meaningless. So, and I think that's often what's actually causing me to lose motivation, lose willpower, lose the drive to work on something. It's as if your goals lose their juice, lose their purpose, and lose their meaning to it, and start leaving you feeling empty, as if you're just doing the work, but you don't really know why you're even doing it anymore. You're just doing the work because you're telling yourself that you wanted to do it, and you're telling yourself you want to be disciplined, but maybe it's not necessarily a direction that you still want for yourself. So that's often the danger that you have if you use a lot of willpower. And I think also that's a trap for many entrepreneurs, because we want to set out and achieve things and achieve our goals. And that often requires discipline and work, right? But So what I do when I get to a place where I feel like my goals are no longer meaningful is, like, first of all, take some time off, reconnect with myself, maybe sleep a bit more, maybe take a week off. But more importantly than that, it's about like feeling out where I actually want to go and where my thoughts are and where my mind is, and feeling out, reflecting on the work that I have been doing and reflecting on how it's actually making me feel and how I actually interpret or I experience that. And in the process of doing that, you become more aware of that. And that's where you can start to reframe your perspective on the meaning and the purpose of your work. Because now you will start to feel out what has gone wrong there. And probably it will be partly a thing that you've just been working too hard. But most of the time, I feel like most of the wear out comes from a sense of misalignment and from a sense of not being connected to your purpose anymore. At least that's the case for me. And I think probably for many people as well, but I can only speak for myself in the end. So it's really about feeling things out more, feeling what went wrong, and at the same time, letting thoughts come up and letting feelings come up, and then becoming aware of that so that you experience and know that, and then just seeing where things takes you. If you follow this feeling, if you follow this thought, how does it make you feel? Does it give you a sense of like meaning, enjoyment back? Does it lead to like a bad place? Give yourself some time to reflect, work, integrate negative experiences, and feeling what gives you joy again. So sometimes that will lead to a new perspective on maybe taking your work and pivoting the direction a little bit in a new direction that's more aligned with what you actually want in your life. Because you will have gotten some new experiences, some new knowledge that have probably affected the way you see meaning in your life. And on the other hand, sometimes it won't be about pivoting. Sometimes it won't be about developing an entirely new perspective. I think sometimes it's just about processing what's been happening, and maybe at the end of it, you conclude that you want to move in the same direction, but you just want to have some room to process and give meaning and give sense to what you've been experiencing, so that you can find the meaning a little bit differently. Even though you might be going in the same direction, you can align meaning a little bit differently. For example, maybe the way you have been interacting with prospects, maybe you've concluded that, hey, maybe you just need to give them a little bit more room to express yourself. Or maybe you've included that, hey, I've been listening to them a lot and I feel like I'm not listening to myself enough. So that maybe listening to yourself more might give you a new sense of meaning. Even though you're still going about, you're still doing the same cold call, you're still reaching out to the same prospects. It's like you're processing what's been going on, giving you clarity, giving you back alignment, so that you can actually work on, not just getting a bunch of money, but also doing soul work, that your work is meaningful to you, and you're not just achieving superficial material success, but you're still aiming, as an entrepreneur, you're still aiming for the material success, but you're doing it in a way that's aligned with your soul. And so, I think that's the best way to go about it, because if you ignore that part, you might end up with a bunch of money, but then feeling miserable. And probably you won't even ever get to that point, because probably you won't be able to keep up if you feel so terrible about what you're doing all the time. So I think aligning with what you actually want, what your soul wants, giving yourself some space and giving yourself some zest to go in a new direction, that you actually have meaning and have purpose, have passion behind it. I think that's the best way, not just for feeling good, but also for actually productivity. Because if you can do work that actually aligns with what you want, you're going to want to do more of that, right? So I think that's the best way to go about it. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to take a year off, and it doesn't mean that you need to meditate the entire day and things like that. You don't need to be dumb about it. You probably still want to maintain the things that you need to do in order to keep your business running. I probably still want to do the minimum that you need to do, right? Because you always have responsibilities, right? Maybe you even have your wife, your children. So, be smart about it. And like I said, you don't necessarily need to become a monk. It's just about finding an integrated way of doing your work and like finding your passion and your meaning again, right? So that's what I say. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been trying to give it some structure and like make the content, to not let it drag on for too long and to keep it to the point. I hope I have been succeeding in that. But yeah, I probably still need to work and improve. But anyway, let me know if there's anything that you enjoyed watching this, or if you have any ideas or something you want to share with me. Feel free to check out my next video. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.